What if I told you there's a name moving right now that could flip Golden State's season before a single preseason tip, and that if you blink tonight, you'll wake up tomorrow hearing it from everyone else? What if I told you the call's already happened? The math is being sketched on whiteboards, and the fit on the floor makes too much sense to ignore, yet nobody can say it out loud just yet? You're going to feel the urgency through the screen because this isn't one of those lazy, mid-September whispers that die by dinner. This is the kind of spark that travels front office to coaching room, locker room to fan base because it touches the one thing that still keeps you up at night. Who creates a fence next to Stephen Curry when it matters? Who breaks a defense without breaking the system? And who can carry a bench unit without sinking the defense? Stay right here because I'm about to walk you through the full picture without spoiling it too early. The prototype player the Warriors have circled for years. The cap gymnastics that either kill this before it starts or make it brilliant. 3 realistic trade pathways, the ripple effects on closing lineups, and what it says about the Steph window. By the end, you'll know exactly how it could happen, why it might not, and whether Golden State should push the button. Welcome back to Warriors News Fan Report. Subscribe. Hit the alerts. Drop a like so the algorithm doesn't bury Bay Area voices under out-of-town noise. Around here, we cover what's happening behind the curtain with the speed of breaking news and the honesty of a fan who bleeds blue and gold. Let's set the stage. The Warriors have been brutally honest with themselves since last spring. They need a jolt of on-ball juice without trashing the spacing that makes Steph the sun. They need rim pressure that doesn't turn into tunnel vision, a secondary closer who can lift the half court when the game slows, and a bench scorer who doesn't turn the second unit into a pickup run. Zoom in on the offense. The motion reads are still beautiful when the ball hums, but when defenses switch everything and top lock Steph, you feel the missing gear. Someone who can beat the first defender with a live dribble, get 2 feet in the paint, and make the rotating big choose between a lob, a slot kick, or foul. When that player also hits pull-up threes and doesn't melt in big moments, your offense survives the mud games. Now the cold water, the cap. First and second apron rules punish impulse. You can't just add salary and hope it works itself out by February. Matching money is a minefield. Asset burn rate matters. If Golden State makes a move, it has to be clean enough for the books and loud enough for the court. The rotation picture adds pressure. Stephen Curry's gravity remains the ultimate cheat code. Draymond Green is still the organizer. The wings have length and defense. The young guards bring feel and pace. But there's a gap between ball mover and bucket getter. That gap decided too many coin flip nights last season. So who is the too obvious to be ignored name that checks the shot creation, the shooting, the swagger, the late game nerve, and the Bay Area appetite for theater? You've waited long enough. Let's talk about it. The scenario lighting up phones tonight is simple to say and complicated to execute. The Warriors moving to bring in Malik Monk, yes. That Malik Monk, an instant offense flamethrower who, in the right role, becomes the exact pressure valve this team has missed since the best version of the Jordan Poole year. This is not a done deal. Not close. It's a live possibility worth serious exploration, with real upside and real landmines. Start with the fit. Monk thrives in the NBA's gray spaces, slip screens into short rolls, ghost actions that freeze a switch, snake dribbles into the dotted line where help has to show or give up a floater. Put him next to Steph, and defenses can't stash a weaker guard on him without paying for it. Put him in a 2-man game with Draymond, and you get those classic 3-on-2 reads, corner drag, dunker spot lob, or that soft push shot Monk has grown comfortable with. He has become more than a heat check scorer. He reads the weak side bump, and he's a willing passer when the nailed defender commits. Second unit calculus matters even more. Monk has the stubborn confidence to own a stretch where Steph sits without devolving into chaos. Give him a steady screen partner and a shooter in each corner, and he manufactures 8 points out of thin air. Those are the nights that swing standings in March. Now the questions. Defense first. Monk competes but isn't a stopper. You're not bringing him in to fight over every screen like a specialist. You're bringing him to win minutes with offense and hold his own by scheme. That means Kerr has to pre-bake the coverages, show and recover, top lock help on the strong side to deter middle drives, and a quick hook if the on-ball effort dips. It's doable, but it's a commitment you make eyes wide open. Closer lineups are where it gets fascinating. Picture Curry, Monk, a long wing who can toggle assignments, Draymond, and a stretch five or athletic finisher depending on the opponent. You trade some point of attack size for a second guy who can create a good shot with 7 on the clock. On nights when Steph is seeing two bodies 35 feet out, Monk's in-between game becomes more than a luxury. It's survival gear. Let's talk money and mechanics, because vibes don't get deals across the line. You're not signing Monk off the street. You're threading a trade. Matching salary is the puzzle piece that makes or breaks discussions. The cleanest version costs you something you'll hate to see go. Maybe it's a shooter you just brought in. Maybe it's a homegrown guard the franchise values. Maybe it's future flexibility welded to protection so tight you hear the hinges squeak. The point is, there is no fantasy version where you add Malik Monk for vibes and late seconds. If you want the player, you accept the price. There are 3 big pathways. First, a direct 2-team framework where Golden State sends salary plus a real asset and receives Monk, possibly with light draft compensation going the other way if protections get creative. Second, a 3-team ladder where an extra front court piece or a rookie-scale wing roots out to help the money line up while the Warriors pay the premium in picks. Third, a delayed structure agree on outlines now. Trigger later when specific dates open restrictions, with all sides holding their breath and their leverage. Each path has a clock, and the longest one risks the most noise. Timing lives in the details. You want this resolved before camp settles habits, but you also don't force a deal into a hard cap wall. If you act later, you accept that new sample sizes can either help your bargaining position or destroy it. If you act now, you buy the runway to integrate Monk into Kerr's language before the schedule stiffens. Basketball again. Because that's why this keeps people up. Imagine Curry working off stagger away, Monk handling at the top. The tagger stays home 1 beat too long. Monk flips to his left hand and floats before the rim protector plants. Next trip, Draymond calls horns twist. Monk rejects the screen and zips a pocket pass that becomes a hammer dunk. The very next possession, he doesn't need the ball. He relocates, receives, and nails a catch-and-shoot 3. That rapid switching between on-ball and off-ball is what the Warriors' offense breathes on. Intangibles matter in this building. Monk plays with joy and nerve. He's comfortable being the villain on the road and the spark at home. The Bay respects hoopers who don't flinch. When you share a floor with Steph, your best version comes out if you embrace the moment instead of dodging it. Monk has shown he leans into the noise. That matters in April. Now the uncomfortable part. What if the contract structure scares you? Maybe there's a player option later in the deal. Maybe the final year is heavier money. Maybe it pinches flexibility just when young guys are ready to get paid. If your front office lives in fear of a future cap pinch, you won't do this. If you believe in keeping the window open by any reasonable means, you find offset salary coming out elsewhere, incentives tied to team success, even pre-negotiate contingency plans with a third team down the road. And yes, defense again. The Warriors' identity was built on stopping people when it mattered, then breaking their will by sprinting the other way. Monk's defense doesn't disqualify him. It forces better lineup curation. Pair him with a rangy wing who can take the toughest cover. Lean on Draymond's quarterbacking. Mix in zone possessions after timeouts protect him for a trip or two. The question is not, is he Gary Payton too? The question is, can the team defense carry his minutes because the offense tilts the scoreboard in your favor? That's a fair bet when your offense graduates from good to punishing. Let's address the elephant in the division. Bringing Monk to Golden State would add heat to a rivalry that already crackles. That's not a reason to do it, but it's a real side effect. He's a big stage player who loves the glare. You don't shy away from that. You weaponize it. What about the kids? This isn't about burying anyone. It's about clarity of roles. Monk handles sets, 4 to 8 of a second quarter stretch, while the young guard learns to toggle between initiator and connector. He closes some nights when his shot is rolling and sits others when the matchup calls for length. The key is keeping the development pipeline open while acknowledging you're in the business of winning now. Health and availability aren't footnotes. You don't pay significant draft value for a guy who will miss months. The medicals have to be clean, the conditioning has to be pro-level, and the program has to believe in the player's durability over an 82-plus spring. Monk's load has grown in recent seasons without his efficiency collapsing. That's a check in the right column. Clutch time is where this could pay off most. Too many late possessions last year were heavy predictable entry. For a switch, contested pull-up because the clock ate the option tree. Monk adds a branch. You can start the action, free Steph on the backside, and force a defense to choose between a clean Steph catch and a Monk drive with momentum. Either outcome is better than the bailout shots you remember. If you're asking about culture, ask yourself this. Does he love hoop? And will he accept being the second engine in a system where the first engine is the greatest shooter ever? By all accounts, yes and yes. He carries himself like a gamer. He doesn't need 22 field goal attempts to impact the game. He thrives in games that feel like chaos from the outside and clarity from the inside. That's Warriors DNA, adjacent, and with the right guardrails, it becomes Warriors DNA for real. Let's be real about risk. The worst case outcome is you pay a premium, the defense springs leaks, and the shooting variance bites you in a playoff series. The best case outcome is you spend real assets and get a nightly 18-5 with elite spacing and second unit stabilization, plus 3 playoff games where he swings the series in your favor. Windows are won on the margins like that. This is where leadership steps in. Steph's buy-in is everything. Draymond's voice is everything. Kerr's ability to plug a new shot creator into motion principles without turning the offense into stationary pick and roll is everything. If those 3 co-sign the plan, you trust the integration. If any of them hesitate, you pass and live with it. Front office chess continues in the background. Protections on picks have to be smart. You don't mortgage an entire decade for immediate gratification. But you also don't hoard assets that never cash in while Steph plays all-NBA ball. There's a balance. This potential move sits right on the fulcrum. Let's talk pressure valves for the defense with Monk on the floor. You can switch him onto the lesser threat and stash the longer wing at the point of attack. You can dial up more nail help and late switches once the drive starts. You can even consider a few more minutes of zone to force opponents into jumpers instead of straight-line drives. If the staff owns that plan from day one, the numbers stabilize. I keep circling back to one basketball truth. The Warriors need someone who can bend the set by himself without breaking the whole structure. Monk does that. He doesn't turn the offense into ISO ball. He adds an ISO valve to an offense that sometimes needs it. It's the exact distinction that separates a highlight signing from a championship piece. Contract escalators next. Everyone hates talking about them until they matter. If there's a player option late, you build your horizon with that in mind. If there's bonus money for team success, you embrace that because it means you're winning. If you need to shave salary on the margins, you make the hard call somewhere else instead of asking Monk to be something he's not. That's the responsible version of aggression. Another basketball angle people underrate: free throws. This team needs more of them, especially when jumpers go cold. Monk gets to the line in those weird end-of-clock possessions where a defender reaches and the whistle rescues a dead trip. Those 2 points change 4 quarters. Let's imagine the first 10 games after an acquisition. He stumbles once or twice, new terminology, new spacing. A couple of 3-for-11 nights where you feel the adjustment. Then the timing clicks. The second unit scores 9 straight on a Tuesday in Phoenix. The building gets loud again on a Thursday because a third quarter run starts with a Monk steal, and ends with a Curry transition 3. It's not linear, but you feel the ceiling lift. Trade alternatives always exist. You could chase a bigger wing, but they cost triple and don't solve the on-ball creation crisis. You could wait for B-out season, but B-out season rarely gives you two-way playoff pieces. You could talk yourself into internal growth carrying the load, and some of that will happen, but betting the whole window on it is faith without a plan. Monk is a plan. There's also the playoff scouting report angle. Opponents will top-lock Steph, battle him off every handoff, and dare someone else to beat them off the dribble. Monk forces them to guard honestly. That one change reshapes matchups you already know too well. I can't shake the image of a crunch time. ATO in May. Kerr draws veer pop for Steph as a decoy. Monk receives, rejects the screen, and hits a drifting 14-footer before the help can load. Next trip, they overhelp on Monk, and Steph gets the cleanest look he's seen all night. That's how series tilt. If you're worried about the room for young guards to breathe, hear this: iron sharpens iron, giving them a veteran scorer to read next to learn pacing and late-game shot selection from, is an education money can't buy. The key is message discipline from day one. Roles are earned, minutes are merit, and nobody's development gets sacrificed for a headline. There's a human piece, too. Monk plays with a joy that fits this franchise's best self. He smiles and competes, and doesn't shy from the moment. That energy travels. It matters in a long season that can feel like a grind by February. The right personality choice can lift a room without a single speech. Could this blow up? Absolutely. Trades do. Chemistry can wobble. Shots can stop falling. But the version where the Warriors stand still and hope the same script ends differently is the bigger gamble. You win windows by choosing the risk you can manage, not the risk you pretend doesn't exist. So where does this leave us tonight? In a place that's both exciting and fragile. The basketball fit is real. The cap path is narrow, but navigable with creativity and conviction. The cost will hurt, but championship math always hurts. If the conversations escalate, the Warriors will have to decide how much today is worth compared to tomorrow's drafts, how much they trust their player development to backfill, and how much they believe a second closer changes everything in April. I want to hear from you. Would you move a real pick and a rotation player to bring in Monk right now? Would you wait and try to threat this in January? Who's your fifth in the closing lineup if he arrives? Tell me your package, your lineup, your risk tolerance in the comments. I'm reading every single one because this is the kind of community call that reveals what Warriors fans value most. My personal opinion. The fit is too clean to ignore, and the window deserves aggressive, responsible bets. If the price is steep, but sane and the defensive plan is honest, I'd do it understanding, of course, that everything we've discussed tonight lives in the realm of informed speculation until pens meet paper.